What's up, YouTube? Today I have an amazing group of people, as you guys are seeing on the screen. James, Troy, Brian, Will, and Alec. First of all, thank you guys so much for accepting the invite. The topic today will be the post-World Cup. What can we expect for the soccer card market? I have 5 topics in mind that I would love to share with all of you guys and create some debate, some critical thinking around them. I guess we can do a quick presentation. I was saying no presentation today, but let's start with James.
Yeah, in terms of presentation, you want me to introduce myself? If you guys don't know me, James
Yeah.
Cards FC. I do content that's probably similar to what you see Andre doing, more presentation sort of based data analysis, all that kind of stuff. So if you haven't checked it out, feel free to. If you like Andre's content, you'll probably enjoy something like mine.
Hey guys, my name's Brian. Basically run the Sunday League Investors YouTube, Instagram, TikTok channel, and yeah, all things art cards.
My name's Troy, Trike415. I make bad soccer card predictions on the internet and occasional card show vlogs.
Hey guys, my IG is Wasabi Trading. You'll see sometimes I'm in like Troy or Brian's videos since I'm by them, and yeah, fairly new to the hobby, but got really deep into it.
Hello, I'm Alec. I am USMNT soccer card collector. I just collect US players and typically have bad takes on international players that get roasted.
Okay, so no, that's great. So guys, the first topic I have for this conversation is World Cup reactions. What ended up surprising you guys the most? For example, a player, something that you did not expect, but what ended up surprising you the most for the negative and the positive? If someone wants to start, feel free. There is no word in this type of stuff. Okay, if no one starts,
I'll go first. I'll go first. I got it. I have to, man, I'm already carrying Brian. Come on. I mean, I kind of made a video about it, but the biggest thing that surprised me was like, I mean, we talked about it. We had one of these discussions before, and we were talking about what we predicted with the World Cup. No one here thought like, oh, Messi rookie cards or Mbappe's prisms are going to double or triple or anything like that. Like, no one thought that. But if you would, I'll have to look again what they are now. But at one point, Messi rookie cards like PSA 9s were mega cracks. The not the 71, but like the 35 or whatever, was half the price that it was before the World Cup. Same thing with Mbappé Prism Silver, and Pulisic too. Oh my God, that I lost on. But like, I just wouldn't have expected that. Like, once again, I never thought it was going to be a 2 or 3 huge bump on these cards that aren't super rare, and people already knew what was going on. But I really didn't think like those cards would take that big of a hit.
I also don't. Okay, I'll contribute. But no, I also was really surprised of how like the players that really didn't have a following or didn't have a collector's base started having a little bit of collector's base, right? Like Caicedo kind of jumps in my mind. John's a huge Ecuadorian fan, and like not just him, but a lot of people were collecting Ecuadorian players, and also you saw a lot of people. Will mentioned this before, Giroud. Like I remember people like collecting Giroud like out of nowhere. Even if it was $20-$30, but that card used to be like $5. I mean, the biggest one is probably Gonzalo Ramos. That was probably the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life in the World Cup. But yeah, so those are like small little pockets as well if you want to look for a silver lining.
no, yeah, no, totally. The Gonzalo Ramos effect was crazy.
That's all you, Andre.
No, yeah. Will, if you want to go next.
Yeah, I think what surprised me was sort of just looking back at like what everyone was like, a lot of the rookies that everyone was speculating on, you know, and really just looking at like how like it was just a reminder how young they are, right? Like as talented as like Musiala, Pedri, Gavi, Bellingham are, like they can't carry a team, right? And we saw like more of the old guards like Messi and Modric, even Giroud as like kind of like really show up at this competition, and it just was a reminder that like, you know, there is a great like great talents coming up, but like, you know, they're still teenagers in the end of the day.
I was going to say, for what surprised me in terms of the soccer card community, I guess, is that going into it, I never would have thought, I mean, if Messi wins a World Cup, that it would change a narrative entirely as it did. I figured, with some of the higher end players, there was some expectation coming into this, and that their markets were already established enough to the point where, one tournament probably wouldn't change everything. But I think it's pretty crazy just to see the way that it turned out and how, at least in the Discord and the way that people talk about it, it seems like some people have entirely changed how they look at that GOAT conversation, which I never would have thought could happen going into it.
Yeah, no, I also agree with that. James, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, apart from the tournament itself, where you have like what I would call anti-football teams like Croatia and Morocco going really deep, just pretty much by sitting back and getting a lucky chance or two go really deep. I thought that was very surprising from the on-field stuff. But when it comes to the cards, I think I was pretty surprised by the fact that we still had these random 2020 or 2021 type spikes on the most random guys. Like I can remember I was at a restaurant watching the first match where Enner Valencia scored 2 quick goals and like his rookie cards start going flying off eBay and his Prism 2022 parallels start shooting up like 100, 200%. And that sort of silly stuff we really don't see often. And so it only happened with a few guys of this World Cup with like Ramos, like Enner Valencia in the first game. There were other random players that spiked like that, but I just thought it was super interesting that is something that does still have the potential to happen. I guess I didn't think we were in a market that was so reactionary, but I guess people still do sort of get carried away once there is that sort of moment.
No, I think all of you guys end up explaining your thoughts very well. I agree in general with all of them. Trying to pick a point that Alec did about the Messi market almost seems like some people end up changing the perspective about him. Now they believe he's a GOAT for some reason. For me, Messi was already very special even before the World Cup. But my second question, and is basically a hot take, and I would love if you guys agree or not. Would love to know if you guys agree or not with this hot take. Messi becomes the Michael Jordan of football, of soccer. Do you guys agree with that?
I mean, I definitely think that was his moment. And then as far as when it comes to how most of us view GOATs, I think a lot of it comes from, did we see them? At least for most people, I think that's like the first criteria. And in terms of soccer players we've all seen, I don't know how you can top that.
I think it's difficult just because in soccer you have so many different leagues and so many different players that there's just so many different things that can grab your attention. But I do think that for this particular era, when we look back on it, the narrative is going to be that it was Messi's era. And we're going to talk about guys like Ronaldo. We'll talk about Modric. We'll talk about Neymar. But like the story that they'll tell about the era will be like Jordan in the 80s and 90s for basketball. We're going to talk about the 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s in the early part as the Messi era of football. And the other guys they'll be in it. And Ronaldo, for example, is going to be a huge thing. But I don't think they're going to be like the main character that drives the story that people are going to talk about.
Oh, for sure. What about you, Brian?
It kind of goes back to the point when we were back on the podcast with me, Troy, and James. Remember we were talking about how like Messi collectors probably have the most very similar attributes to like the Michael Jordan collectors, where it's like people are so crazy about how they collect Michael Jordan. I think it's just there's just levels to the game, right? Like this is gonna take it to another level where it's like solidifies it. Where Messi collectors, there's gonna be cards that you're probably not gonna be able to get just because they like it. Like I have a client that I do a lot of work for that's a super Messi collector. All of a sudden, when he wins the World Cup, he does not want to move a single Messi card, and that's pretty unheard of right now.
No, for sure. Troy actually knows much more about the basketball market, and I believe all of us. So, what do you think about this take?
That Messi is, in terms of the hobby, yeah, 100%, 100%. I think he's going to be after this. Like, I mean, he was already kind of there, but I think some of these other guys are right in terms of how many people are going to want to collect him. I think he's going to be above Ronaldo going forward. In terms of, is he the actual GOAT? I don't really know, to be honest. Like, I'm just not educated enough on Pelé and I mean, also I didn't watch him. So what do you want me to say? Like, but in terms of the hobby, just because we've seen him, like he's going to be that guy.
No, I agree. And I also think that the basketball market, the vintage aspect is not as strong as the modern side. And in soccer, vintage is quite important. That's why sometimes I compare soccer more with baseball, where the vintage players are still super relevant then again, the modern era is very important, but I also believe our vintage market is quite crucial.
I'm gonna not push back. Maybe is the wrong word, but do you think that in terms of percentage though? Because I would honestly guess in terms of like, for instance, percentage of eBay transactions, I would guess that soccer vintage is like the lowest out of any sport compared to
agree
like
with you.
basketball
Yeah,
and baseball.
that's just a function of population reports. But yeah, it's 100% right. The soccer vintage like selling and active volume is very, very small just because of how few there is.
Yeah, there is less supply, automatic, less liquidity, and there is also the fact that I agree with you that modern, pre-modern, whatever, have much more participants than vintage. But I also think the vintage community, the percentage of collectors versus investors and flippers, there is much more collectors on the vintage side, I think, because it's by the nature of the market. You don't buy a card to expect to sell in 1 month, even in 1 year. The player is not playing anymore. What will be the force that drives increase of price? And by nature, again, modern have a lot of that. Gonçalo Ramos was, I guess, a very, even Messi cards end up being a good example because Messi is still playing, Messi is still creating greatness. So I agree with you that is probably the least in terms of is the market that trades the most on eBay, LCC, etc. Will, how about you? No, feel free.
I was going to throw something out there in terms of, Jordan to Messi collectors. Obviously, you get the big GOAT collectors that go after the highest of high end, but I think something that makes Jordan and Messi very similar from a card collecting standpoint is in basketball, everyone tries to get a little bit of Jordan, even if you're not a Jordan guy. And I see the same thing in soccer. Everyone has a little small Messi's part of their collection, even if you are or are not a Messi stan. And I think that that's something that's very important. And I think it's something that really only Messi has in the soccer card market, other than maybe Pele.
Okay. Will.
Yeah, I think with Messi, I think it's more like we can talk about card value and stuff like that, but I think like in the end of the day, it comes down to like just the psychology of the buyers and stuff like that. And like I think the feeling that Messi gives feels very similar to sort of Jordan, especially in this like social media era where like I think like the most liked photo now on Instagram is Messi lifting the World Cup, right? And it's going to be some like people will talk about like 2022 Messi winning the World Cup for years, right? And I feel like it has that sort of similar like nostalgia effect as like Jordan would like down the line, and I think we're just gonna see that start snowballing as we move further and further away from living in it right now in the present day.
No, I think again it's fair. I will share my perspective. Until this World Cup, I was not sure. I believe I was with you, James, that I end up disagreeing in the sense that I believe in one video end up comparing the basketball market with the soccer card market, and I said I'm not going with that because I actually believe we don't have a Michael Jordan, and I believe this World Cup is so huge that my opinion may end up changing. I actually feel that or Michael Jordan is Messi at this point. For example, for Cristiano Ronaldo, you cannot compare Cristiano Ronaldo with Messi anymore, in my opinion. I think it's just, numbers are very similar. One end up winning more stuff, plus that magic effect that people tend to like. Maradona is also behind, in my perspective. I guess Pelé will always be a debate because 3 World Cups is quite a lot. But if Messi for me was close to Pelé before, now needs to be ahead, even though I understand this is very debatable. Hey guys, just a quick pause on the video. Hope you are enjoying this podcast. I had a lot of fun, great discussions, and I hope you are also feeling the same. If that's the case, do not forget to leave a like, very important, and this is one of the best ways to show support. A like for you is super easy, for me can actually mean a lot. Two things, I have a Discord community that is over 800 members, is one of the best places to learn about the card market, to interact with me, to interact with other collectors. You need to join, is totally free, link will be below the video, so I hope to see you there. The second thing is my Patreon community is the best way to support the channel, but I try to provide a lot of value there. I put a new Q&A every week and extra audio on Saturday. So if you love my content on YouTube, you are actually missing a lot of content that I have on the Patreon side. Link will also be below the video, and I also hope to see you there. Now let's continue with this podcast, and again, do not forget the like.
I think the other thing I think with Messi is like he's won, like it's as I forgot who said it, but you know, it's very hard to think about soccer because there's so many different leagues, so many different eras. You have the World Cup, you have individual awards, you have club awards, you have club trophies, you know, all of that. And it's like similar to Michael Jordan, where it feels like it's like winning, you know, two back-to-back, like, you know, NBA final or six total, but like, you know, in 3 times in a row each. Like, I think that like it's going to be a really long time until we see a player win the amount of individual awards, break the amount of records in Europe, and then win the World Cup as well, and then win, you know, South American awards and the Copa, and like kind of just win like everything under the sun. Like, I think that is like the craziest part about all that, is like to be able to do that in a lifetime seems impossible, similar to what MJ did. I guess that's sort of where I go with it.
Yeah, and if you connect it back to like why it matters in cards in the hobby and that sort of thing, I think we all already knew that there were way more Messi collectors than like pretty much any other player already combined. And unless you go back to vintage and Pele collectors are huge as well, but for modern or ultra modern guys, there were probably more Messi collectors than every other player you put together combined. And I don't see how that number doesn't like increase its relative to the rest of them.
And don't you guys think that, for example, people that are Cristiano Ronaldo fans, they will not change because I mean I don't think it's the World Cup that moves the needle there. But my perspective for the Messi market is in 5 years, 10 years, new blood entering the market. That they have zero bias for Ronaldo or Messi. I mean, it seems almost logic that they will pick Messi. You know, I actually believe that this impact will be more strong in the long run than it is in the short term, if that makes sense. Because there will be a cycle of new collectors, and will be quite obvious what player they have to choose. For now, we still have people that have some bias, some emotional related with Ronaldo. Be something to think about. The third one is the one that James liked the most. We will pump certain players. So what player end up winning let's say what 3 players or 2 is up to all of you guys you think end up winning the most with this World Cup, and what are the ones that end up losing the most? Let's start with James in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll take the bullet on the worst one first. It'll probably be Neymar, specifically because of the expectations that were attached to Brazil and how much this World Cup is really needed for him in a lot of people's eyes to validate what he's done for Brazil, despite the fact that he's going to end up leading the country in goals by probably a lot by the time he's retired. He really needs to get them over the finish line in terms of the World Cup to really get the due that he probably deserves. So it really hurts that now he's going to be 34, and if you watch him, he's considerably less pacey than he's been in the past few years. The injuries are starting to rack up on him. His fitness isn't as good as it used to be. So once you project out 4 years, it's not looking great for him. Maybe he's like a rotational piece where they have a really good team around him, and they get a lot done. But yeah, this was a big opportunity for him, and he completely whiffed. And I worry what that does to his narrative in the long run. So that would be the most obvious one to me in terms of the guy that lost the most. Not necessarily through any fault of his own. I mean, he scored probably the biggest goal of his career, and then his team sent too many guys forward, and they got scored on. So a bit unfortunate, but yeah, Neymar's probably the biggest loser in my opinion. And if I just pick one guy that did really well, it's obviously going to be Modric on the other side, because I think he now elevates himself to a position where he wasn't before. I think people sort of looked at Modric and you said, yeah, he won the Ballon d'Or once, but it was kind of, it could have gone to a few different guys that year and you wouldn't have been too confused as to why it went there. But now he's done it twice in terms of how far he's taken Croatia, and people are starting to look at his accolades, how many times he's won different things, and how he's performing at his age. And so everything starts to add up to a guy that's probably one of the top 5 or 10 midfielders of all time. And he has never been treated like that in the market. So it'll be interesting to see when and if he does get his due that way. But I think this was a huge step for him in getting to that level where we can talk about him the way we talk about Xavi and Iniesta.
No, I agree totally.
Actually, when it's all said and done, what do you think? Muller, Modric, and Neymar. Like, this would never be a conversation, but like now I felt like it's even closer than it really is today.
So
Yeah.
I'm super biased, but I would put Neymar first just because he's a brand that transcends like on-field performance and all that kind of stuff. And when we talk about the market and the hobby and all that, it matters almost as much performance as what the brand is and how people associate with it. And I just think he's on a level that those guys aren't. But once you start going to that next level below him, I think, I mean, I put Modric probably behind him, and then Lewandowski one step below that.
I guess for me, I actually, my hot take coming out of the World Cup is I put Modric over Neymar. Actually, I think just the amount of Champions League wins that he has, the Ballon d'Or, I think is like a big standout as well during like the really competitive era of Messi and Ronaldo, and then yeah, just his performance with the country and being sort of that national hero. At least to me, I don't know if the market will reflect that, but if you ask me personally, my hot take is I put Modric in the Messi Ronaldo era as like, third.
Oh,
I think
I also think that
for sure.
that I'm sorry, I also agree with that. I think Modric with this World Cup again it's difficult because Neymar is a completely different player. He's much more beautiful to watch if you like football, but Modric is also amazing. So it's difficult. I think the best player after Ronaldo and Messi is probably Iniesta or Xavi. I still think that's the correct choice looking at their careers, but they have been retired. I know Iniesta not retired, but it's almost the same thing playing in Japan, honestly. So I probably, forgetting Iniesta and Xavi, I probably would go with Modric, but I can see the argument for Neymar. Muller is great, but people don't care about. So it's a bit of a shame, honestly. And of course,
funny thing about
Lewandowski,
Muller,
Benzema is difficult.
The funny thing about Muller is if you go back and look, I was looking at his early World Cup stats. At the same age as Mbappe, he almost had the same amount of goals as Mbappe has now at the World Cup. And for the next 3 World Cups, he never scored again. It's crazy.
There is a fun story in 2010, 2010 or 2006, I'm not sure, when they played against Argentina. Maradona said, Muller, who is that guy? And I believe Muller, after that, scored an hat-trick against Argentina. I remember that story. It was so crazy. And yeah, Muller was more a striker when he was younger than it is right now. But an interesting thing, and I would love to know you guys' opinion, is that I actually feel that the number 1 and number 2 are quite clear. We all know Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. But the number 3, 4, 5, 6, I think is very up to debate because Lewandowski won 2 times best player in the world. Benzema have the Ballon d'Or. So I think the top 10 of this generation is difficult apart from the position number 1 and number 2.
I stand by that. For the hobby, it doesn't matter. They're just gonna be. That's my hot take.
So you think they just pick the 1 and the 2?
Yeah, like I big respect to everyone's PC here, but like Muller, even Modric, man, I don't think it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be really low value. That's really how I feel going forward. Outside of like 1 or or 2 cards. I mean, I don't mean to. We can still have the discussion, but like that's how I feel about it. I think it's going to be such a huge gap. I don't think it's even going to be close. Even when you were like debating, like kind of, I felt like Ronaldo was kind of being moved down. I think even still, the gap between Ronaldo and those other guys is just going to be huge.
Yeah, and
No,
this is what we
I
see in
agree.
pretty much every other sport is the gap between like Messi and Ronaldo will have a gap, but the gap that comes between Ronaldo and the rest of the guys in this generation is going to be like an absolute monster gap, at least from what
Wait,
we've
what
seen
about
from other
Mbappe
sports.
though? Like that's the
Well,
that
I'm not saying Mbappe's in that group because I think he's like the next generation when we start talking about Mbappe and Holland and those guys. But for like, but pre Mbappe, I think it's Messi, Ronaldo. Then there's just gonna be a massive gap.
No, Mbappe is very special. I mean, he's in a tier of his own, if that makes sense, because he's the next guy. I think Haaland is close to him. So I guess we are talking more about players that are close to retiring or at the end of their careers. But I agree with you, Troy. Don't think I disagree with that take, because I also think the GOAT market is much more stronger than anything else. I mean, like you said, let's say the third is Lewandowski. Yeah, Lewandowski does not come close to to a similar card. For example, let's say a gold Lewandowski is not even comparable with a gold Cristiano Ronaldo. Forget Messi. So I agree with you on that totally.
Do
Yeah,
you think though
100%. And
with
sorry,
go for it, Chuck.
no, I was just gonna say I apologize for coming in kind of hot. I didn't sleep that well. But just to answer the question, for the record though, I would say Neymar number 3 in terms of the hobby. Actually, going forward, that'll be my guess.
Okay. What do you think? Like I think interesting about winners for the World Cup is like I think Mbappe's a winner. It's funny to say, but just that performance for one of the best World Cup finals ever, to be honest, played, like it just leaves such an impact for like him moving forward, even though he lost. It was like the next best case scenario, I would say, for him. But what do you think like Mbappe needs to do to like actually cement a legacy, right? Because like what happens if like he wins maybe just like one Champions League and that's it. It's so I'm just curious on like what people's thoughts are, because like I do think he's like it's him and Holland as the next big thing, but they're still so young that like so much can happen, and there's a big fall from how far he's gotten already. If he gets injured or something like that.
Yeah, I was gonna, when we were doing like the winners and losers, Mbappe was actually gonna be like my winner, like outside of like the obvious ones. I mean, once again, I'm just throwing the hot takes out there, but like those whatever 2 goals in 1 minute, 2 minutes, I think that was more important for his hobby relevance than literally anything he could have done on the club level. I think I would put that I would put that over a Champions League win. I think literally people seeing him in a World Cup final do that is more important for his perception than if he had won a Champions League.
The takes that were going around about Mbappe from like quarters to semis to halfway through the first half of the final was so negative, because it was he's ghosting, he's being carried, he hasn't done anything. Then all of a sudden in 180 seconds he's now back to where he was before in a lot of people's opinions. So yeah, I mean I think that was huge for him, because the narrative was starting to get out there that he wasn't really doing anything. So on the biggest stage, I think definitely that was like he almost needed to do that.
but you're saying that if he scores that those 2 goals are more important than the Champions League win.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think for price.
We're all
yeah, I got James on my side. There we go.
We're all agreeing with this right now. Like,
Yeah,
No,
isn't that wild though?
Very clear.
No, but I agree actually, because I mean, so many people was watching the game. From an American perspective, makes a lot of sense what he's saying. As a football fan, I mean, winning a Champions League is much better than losing a final. But he has a point there, honestly. I think makes a lot of sense. My opinion about Mbappé is similar to yours, guys. I think he's the best player in the world. At his, he could be the best player in the world, honestly. I think he's between him and Messi. It's kind of funny because before the World Cup, everyone was saying Haaland was much better. Now people are already back on the Mbappé is the next guy. And I don't know. I always felt was Mbappé because Haaland is more the typical number 9. I think Mbappé can do much more with the ball, have much more talent, but again, who knows? Haaland mentality, I like it a little bit more, for example. But yeah.
Yeah, so I had a hobby question on Mbappe because I think we all agree that when you think about the Messi card or the Messi market, you think of 71 biz. What's the Mbappe card? I was trying to figure it out, and you have so many that compete right now, but if you're trying to pick one or two, like what is the Mbappe card, you know? Because I think for Messi, we all immediately think it's 71 biz. What is it for Mbappe? Is it 2016 sticker? Is it Chrome? Is it Prism?
Top Scrum 2017 for me.
Yeah. For me, I go Chrome or sticker come to mind first.
The reason I go Chrome is because the set being much more relevant than the Prism 2018. If Mbappé had a Prism 2014, that will be different. But I just think the lineage on the set is too good. But in the other end, I would say one thing is much more people connecting much more with France than connect with PSG. So it gets difficult just because of that.
Yeah, I don't know why. For some reason, like I'm happy 2017 Topps Chrome got brought into this conversation. I always find a way, but like for some reason, I've never connected with Mbappe's Topps Chrome 2017. I don't know why. For me, it's I guess I think of the Prism because like, you know, that was just like it was such a big card at one point. You know what I mean? Like that's what
Exactly.
everyone was going after. So that's kind of like people weren't. I mean, yeah, the sticker was kind of expensive, but like people weren't really talking about the Topps Chrome 2017 hardly at all, and the select and all that. So I guess like I mean it's kind of like a little bit like the Jordan Star, right? Like that was before, but at least my understanding, it wasn't live then, is like people remember the Fleer. So I think that's an argument for the Prism for sure.
No, I agree with that.
I think it's like, you know,
no, go on, Will.
oh, sorry. I think it's like almost too early to call. Like, I think it just depends on where he cements his legacy. Like, does he win another World Cup with France? Can he get PSG's first, like, you know, Champions League title? Like, I mean, if I had to choose right now, I go with just the earliest. I mean, you know, you can never go wrong with the earliest.
You're going with the sticker.
Card.
You're going with the sticker.
Earliest card.
Will
card.
recommends everyone buy the sticker.
Bro.
Yep, earliest one. Will said buy the sticker.
Card. I hate you guys.
Hey, earliest card is 2017 Adrenaline with Monaco. So
yeah, so Will gave you two options actually, either the sticker or the match pack.
Well, I mean, I think Prism, because I think the 101 black. Like I'm thinking 101 black versus the super. I think I would take the 101 black. So.
No, it's fair. I also can see that for sure. By the way, I don't think it's crazy to go with a sticker, because if you guys compare prices, rarity versus what is selling, the sticker sells for more than anything else. Because look at the pop report and how much that they still sell. I mean, the thing that is bad about the sticker is there is still actually a lot of sealed packs around eBay, etc. And I think the pop can increase a good amount, but I don't think it's crazy to pick the sticker, especially if you are more in a budget, you know, in the sense that if you can spend, let's say, $500, I can see the sticker being the best option, because you cannot even buy anything on Chrome with $500, I believe, and also on Prism. So
you can buy base stuff, but
yeah, base. But I was thinking about yeah. But for example, I prefer the sticker much more than I prefer base Prism. So
you can get like a silver 9 for what, like $500?
Yeah, I don't know.
They might actually be
I
under
think
that
so.
now. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm rocking with the silver. Rocking with the silver over the sticker.
Okay, that's I don't know prices to be honest, but if that's the case, maybe.
Yeah,
I would love the sticker if there wasn't so much product still out there. Like, it's so easy to find that product sealed.
Yeah, people are still ripping it all the time, right? Like I swear half the Facebook groups is people are always like, oh, I'll throw in some Panini foot stickers for you. I'm like, nah, I'm good.
And
that's scary.
The thing about the sticker is not even a great sticker. That's the problem, because he's with other guy. I mean, for example, the Cristiano Ronaldo sticker is a beautiful sticker. I think is actually one of his best collectibles, but the Mbappé one is, at least I don't like it that much. So actually, in a similar topic, on my Discord community, people was debating 2018 Prism for Messi versus 2022 Prism for Messi. That the 2022 now is much more relevant than the 2018. I believe putting the 2014 makes not a lot of sense, even though people was debating that. But for me, that's crazy. I think the set is just too important to get surpassed by the new product. But what do you guys think? Do you believe that 22 Prism will become more important than the 18 Prism? Talking about similar rarity, of course.
I mean, for me personally, I don't own any 2018 Messi, and if I had to choose between the two, I would go for 2022. But I could see how the 2018 Messi, you could almost have it be sort of a hedge, or at least latch on to Mbappe a little bit. Because if Mbappe does continue to, go on the career arc that he's having, that 2018 set could maybe rise in prominence, and then maybe with that, the Messi comes with it. But at least right now, personally, I would take the 2022 over 2018.
I need a live James Card FC video right here. I want to know the number of parallels for 2022 versus 2018, because it's not a new point at all, but like, oh, here we go. He's getting ready. We need a screen presentation and all that.
Share screen, James.
But Troy, assume, for example, if I could give you a gold 22 or a gold 18, what is the one you pick?
Well, I mean, gold, I guess that's different, but I guess the argument I'd make is like out of 99, whatever, in 2022 versus 2018. Like, I feel like there's so many in 2022 because there's like the Mojo, like the Breakaway, and like the Shimmer. So if I had it, you know what, with gold, I'll go with 2022. But if I had to choose between an out of 150 2018 or an out of 150 2022, I'd probably go with the 2018, just because my assumption would be there's not as many of those.
No, that's also my perspective, because there is so many numbered cards nowadays versus in 2018. So 2014 is not even a debate, right? That's much special than
it's not even close.
Not close. Yeah, I go 2018.
I counted 24 versus 14 in just numbered parallels. There's 24 in 2022 and there's 14 in 2018. That's just numbered cards.
Yeah.
Because in 2022, there's also way more non-numbered cards.
Yeah, so I mean that's already like
the animal print and all that too. Like, tiger, elephant skin, like all of that stuff.
Like we could just round up and say that it's double the print run or so.
Makes sense. And I believe that there is a numbered variation that is out of 399 or something really crazy. I could be wrong, but
yeah, the solid red, like true red, is 399 and solid blue is 299.
Yeah, that alone is almost the same amount of numbered cards in 2014, for example. So
that's wild. I would, which would be a more iconic set, and I still think I think as Alex said it, like 2018 would be like Mbappe.
Will, you are
over time.
Will, you are cutting the audio.
Yeah, my really bad.
Okay, and not fix it yet. I guess while Will tries to fix that. What about you, Brian?
I think significance-wise, 2022 people will have a little bit more, obviously emotions towards it. But I think the reality is, like, even now, I think the better value is probably 2018. It kind of reminds me of like 2016 Euro Prisms with Ronaldo's. Like, oh shoot, guys, let's buy 2016 Euro because that's when Ronaldo won the Euros, right? And there was a significant hype with it, but now it's like, do people really collect as much as we thought they're gonna do it? Not right now. Maybe in the future, but at least right now I don't see anything that changes.
No, that's a great point, actually. The Euro for Ronaldo, I did not even thought about that.
Yeah, because my thing is, if you're gonna go for something that's like Messi World Cup exactly related, and you want a card about that, I guarantee you over the next few years, we're going to have a ton of different parallel options and on-card autos with Messi with the trophy and Messi winning it for Argentina and all these kind of cards. Whereas the Prism 2022, while it's the Prism 2022, the card is just him running in a straight line. Like I'm sure we're going to have a million really cool looking variations of him with the trophy that people are probably going to gravitate towards more.
Okay. So the last topic of today's podcast is Cristiano Ronaldo gap versus Messi. We already talked a bit about that, but you guys think the gap is already quite huge. So, for example, I guess I can share this because I was looking before the podcast. The green Topps Chrome 2017 Messi sold on PLCC for 3.6K PSA 10. The Ronaldo sold on eBay a couple of days ago for 1.5K, also PSA 10. So it's actually it's crazy the gap. Do you think? And this was without the World Cup for Messi. Do you guys think this will get worse, or you guys think maybe Cristiano Ronaldo could be a buy, for example?
All right. I mean, for me, I think that in terms of Ronaldo collectability, I still think Ronaldo has a ton of collectability and he'll still hold a good price, but I do think Messi will sort of run away with it. I could see when, everyone in Discord and whatnot starts talking about GOAT discussion in the future, that maybe Ronaldo slips out of the Maradona, Pele, Messi into more of the Cruyff, Zidane, R9, that type of debate. So I do think with that, you lose some general collectors that just want to get a little bit of something, but there still will be diehards. I just don't think that the gap will get any closer after what just happened.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is that the gap was already pretty big even before this happened. And so if you throw in the fact that we're probably going to have a lot more new people coming in, and even anybody that's like somewhat interested in soccer, if they're going to go for one guy from this decade, or one guy from this generation without being personally attached to Messi or Ronaldo, I can't imagine they wouldn't pick Messi over Ronaldo, unless you had some sort of personal attachment, like I said. And so once you start factoring that in, I think the gap has no theoretical reason as to why it wouldn't just get bigger.
Better right now?
Not sure yet. Talk a bit more.
Yeah. I'm also thinking about like new soccer fans coming in. Like,
okay, Will, it's not better. It's actually not better.
Put it in the chat and I'll read it off for you.
Yeah. It's still cutting.
The thing I'm curious about the gap is like, how much of that gap before the World Cup do you guys think was because of Ronaldo's kind of tailing off is the wrong, but because of his struggles lately? You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of thinking that maybe now with the World Cup, I think it's kind of like it's done. But I'm thinking that maybe if not for that, then the gap might have actually gotten a little closer as like once they both retired. You know what I mean? I think it's because people knew Messi was a little bit more relevant right now than Ronaldo. I mean, Ronaldo's about to be in like Saudi Arabia, right? So maybe that.
No disrespect to Saudi Arabia, though.
Yeah, you don't want to disrespect Saudi Arabia. That's what you don't want to do.
I just want to put that out there. I respect that.
Yeah. So I guess that's one thing like I was thinking about. Like I did see the gap forming when I didn't really think it was there before. And I was just curious how much of that was legacy versus people just kind of like being in the moment about it,
It's all
I think that's a good point, though, because there's like no priced in effect on Ronaldo at all right now, because his career in pretty much a general sense is over at this point. He's probably not going to be playing Champions League football again, or at least not in a main role capacity. So there's no reason for you to like buy it and hope he performs really well and then sell it in the future. Whereas with Messi, maybe some people were still thinking about that. So from that perspective, I think it's one of the worst times in the Ronaldo market, where there's nothing priced in, there's no FOMO. It's just sort of his legacy, and that's it.
It definitely could get worse too. Like I think also it kind of goes back to what you were saying, right? Like the way you go out is very important. The way Mbappé went out was as fairy tale as it gets. But with Ronaldo, that was like a tragedy.
Yeah.
So it's like the way he went out with the interview, the way he went out with Portugal, that stays in people's minds. Like even though it's so reactionary, it's unfortunate. He gets disrespected, but that's the reality right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
I
over time that'll change, but like for the short term,
Yes.
I can see why people are so sour on him.
yeah, I actually I agree with all of that, but I also would not be buying Ronaldo right now because I mean he goes to Saudi Arabia, probably the talk around him will be none, and Messi. That's the crazy thing is the biggest moment for Messi is the worst moment for Ronaldo. So this, in terms of timing, this was quite awful. And Messi still playing at PSG, high level, will still can win the Champions League, potentially the next Ballon d'Or. So the next, I would say, 1 year to 2 years, the narrative can get even worse for Ronaldo. Actually, pains me to say. It's the way I look at this is short term, mid term. I'm a bit afraid of Ronaldo. Long run, I think will be fine because the guy still have a lot of records and is one of the players that end up impacting the most this generation. So. Okay, Will is actually talking.
Yeah, he popped up.
Yeah,
a message.
James, you said you're gonna read it. You got it.
All right, I got you guys. This is from Will. Yeah, internet not getting better, but I don't see how Ronaldo will have so many new fans moving forward versus the amount of new fans Messi will have from the World Cup, PSG, plus MLS potentially could be exponential for him.
That's a good point too as well. If Messi goes to the MLS and Ronaldo is in Saudi Arabia, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's gonna like kids are even, you know what I mean? Then he's even gonna like connect with kids who are like 5 years old right now. They're gonna be like, oh, I went one of my first soccer games was seeing like Messi at Nashville SC, right? Not FC. So it's like that's even gonna like make it bigger.
And
Yeah,
the
like
something
Andre was saying, over the next few years, like we're still in like the Messi story years. Like when we go into this whole next season will be about Messi with PSG, and then it'll be about where Messi goes with PSG. It's possible he plays in Copa America, which is not rumored to be hosted in the United States. Then we have Club World Cup potentially the year after that, where he could still be playing for a premier club. And then maybe he sticks around until 2026 World Cup. We have no idea, but we know Ronaldo's not going to be in the picture for any of that, and so that's a big deal.
the crazy thing is, I actually believe Ronaldo wants to be in 2026 more than Messi. The problem is, I'm not sure if Ronaldo is capable, and I believe Messi is capable, even though he said he does not want that. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you guys. It's a weird time if you're a Ronaldo fan, like I am, to be honest. So yeah, I basically have no topics. If you guys want to talk about something, feel free. So yeah.
This is the free pumping window.
Where does the market go from here, guys? What do I do? My cards are down. I need someone to talk to me. I need hope. Someone give me
No
some
one's
hope.
bought my cards either, so yeah.
If you want
I've-
hope in the market, I think at least from looking at the data recently, a big factor besides the macroeconomic conditions being so bad is specifically during this World Cup, the top 5 or 10 guys in the hobby had 200, 300, 400% card volume compared to what they normally have. So there was a massive flood of cards on the market that in addition to all the bad macro conditions, just forces everything down because there's just not enough demand to soak up all that supply. And so eventually we're looking for a point where there's not so much supply on the market, especially for the guys that are in a lot of demand. But I mean, we see with Pulisic, he has a decent World Cup, he has a huge moment, and his cards are absolutely getting slammed because there's so many of them. I mean, Alec did a whole video on this. Basically, any United States national team guy you want, his best card was all up during these past 2 weeks, and so that's you just can't do anything when there's not the demand to withstand that.
Yeah, so I mean, from the U.S. perspective, basically, like during the World Cup season, during those few weeks, there was more auctions than I had ever seen. There was cards I'd never seen. It was so fun in terms of someone going out there and getting that type of stuff. Obviously, if you're looking at it in terms of prices and you own those cards already, it's not fun. But now, whenever I go on eBay, like nightly, there's maybe 3 or 4 cards I care to look at, when before there was like 30 to 40. So I guess when we're talking in terms of price and supply and all that stuff, while it has been rough, I do think that going forward, at least for very collectible players or players that have a good following, there's not going to be the same, supply just being thrown on eBay or wherever. And I do think at that point, we basically have this reset and keep going type of mentality. And I think that, that'll be fun no matter which side you're on as a collector or, someone that's trying to invest.
And if you're still prospecting, there's going to be guys that pop off, like Goncalo Ramos in those sort of cases. So if you want to play that sort of game, that's still definitely going to be a thing.
Yeah, there's still Champions League going on. That's still there's a lot of storylines, a lot of like just potential crazy matchups, and then also the Women's World Cup. I think it's going to be interesting to see how that is reacted. I mean, America is very, very nationalistic, so like when anything America happens in a world tournament, we tune in, and especially with Women's Chrome, all that stuff. Like I'm thinking about as well. I'm not really familiar with it, so I'm still trying to learn. So those are things I'm curious about as well.
Do you know if we're getting a Prism set for that? Because I think that'd be really cool. But I don't know
Yeah,
if
that was what I
PvP
was
has
thinking
any.
too. I think Tops and Fanatics has the license for women's, but haven't heard anything about the World Cup set. But that would be sick to have. But I was thinking about that.
So the 2023 is actually a difficult year to predict because there is not a lot of stuff. There is not a lot of catalysis in my perspective. And because of that, is tricky. And looking at macroeconomics, they are so bad right now that I actually can see the market suffering for at least one more year. But again, I'm starting to believe this more and more. I believe there will be a Messi market, then there will be a market for the other players. And the people that have the top high end for Messi, I think they can do well. To be fair, is much difficult to judge since that stuff does not trade that often, and there is probably a lot of private deals for those top cards. But the 2023 is probably a difficult market, honestly. No one can predict this type of stuff, but it's difficult to see. And when there is such a huge event like the World Cup, it's normal to also feel a depression almost on the collector community because the World Cup is done. I did not sell this. I did not. There is almost a depression. Even for example, myself, the World Cup is done, and I already feel bad about that because I was enjoying the World Cup so much. Right now, looking at, I will watch Benfica games, but yeah, I need the Champions League to start to. Oh, we'll. I need the Champions League to start to have great games again. So. But Troy, honestly, no one can tell you the correct answer there. It's really difficult.
Oh man, I don't know what I'm gonna do then. I need
I know,
someone
I'm
to tell me.
disappointed. I'm
Yeah,
disappointed too. Yeah,
I
really
need
want.
I need yes or no answers.
But
Yeah, I don't.
okay, so let's do a different thing. Let's do a different thing. Because I cannot give you the answer because I don't know, but I can try to see what you believe about the market, even if you are not telling that right now. For example, do you agree with me that the international demand is every day more prevalent in our market? You went to all the shows, right, in Europe?
I don't know. I saw an Instagram clip that says no one cares about soccer cards. It's all just fake. So I don't know. I was told no one internationally cares about soccer cards. But no, all jokes aside, yeah, the international market is really growing. Maybe not as much as we would have predicted at this point, but I think that's almost like a cheat code in a sense, like that having that potential out there. You know what I mean? Like the basketball card market, like what are we hoping for at this point? Like, especially for the new guys, like obviously Jordan and stuff, like it'll be fine. But like at least soccer cards kind of have that avenue, you know?
Yeah, there's more shows coming up internationally, so I think there's a lot of like optimism from that point of view.
I mean, trying to be bullish about our market is actually quite easy because you have the sport growing in America. We have the European market also growing quite a lot. Of course, we need time. There is an education process that needs to happen. But we also have the Asian market collecting soccer more and more every day. If you pick one sport, is just one sport, you need to be bullish on soccer because there is so many things going for us. Maybe not short term. We may not even be the best market short term, mid term, but long run, man, we are in a great spot. PSA already said that they want to open in Europe. They need to invest money there if they open an office in Europe. And all of this brings education to this region. And I think that's the key. eventually maybe in China, who knows, so that's my perspective. I believe the soccer card market have just a crazy potential. I have a question for you, Brian. So I saw that you have been breaking quite a lot. Do you see an increase on demand with this World Cup? Because the thing that James was talking, that there was a lot, and also that there was a lot of supply. I think there was a lot of there was a shock of supply versus demand. So it's very easy, not very easy. It's actually very difficult to judge what's going on right now on the market, because if I believe there is more demand right now than it was 2 months ago, I also cannot give you a good prediction of what's going on, in the sense that there is also a lot of people trying to leave the market. But when it comes to breaks, I think that's a good way to measure the market. Do you see an increase on demand?
So of all the products this year that was released, we're talking Merlin 2021, which is probably the product of the year, besides World Cup. All the products, I cannot think of one product that was on the market that actually went up in value significantly. Where you saw with World Cup Prism coming out, I think at like 350, 360 a box, to breakers or whatever. This year was probably got it for like super dirt cheap. Now you could probably get them for like 400, and they topped out at like, I forgot, like 500, I believe at one point.
That was
And
550, 600.
550, 600. That's something that you don't see, right? And think about it, right? The amount of what we had, double the print run, right? We can assume it's like double the print run from 2018. Like, to wrap that around your mind, the demand was wild. We couldn't keep up as well from a wax perspective, and that was really encouraging, right? And obviously, everybody was breaking the product. So who will stay? Even if it's like 5-10%, I think I'm more than happy about it, because it's more than we expected.
Okay, so now let's try to finish the thoughts on this. So Troy, Brian said that there is more demand than ever when it comes to breaks. You agree with me that the international demand is growing and our potential is huge. So why should you be afraid of our market?
I'm just afraid, man. I don't know.
He's
No,
a
but-
scared boy. He's a scared little boy.
Someone tell me what to believe. I don't know. No, I'm just joking around. I mean, we've said it a million times. No one knows what's going to happen. I will say that I think that there will still be, I mean, it's literally a meme. Like, everyone after the World Cup thinks they're a soccer fan for like 2 months or whatever. So it's going to be, keep an eye out. If there's a random prospect that scores like a hat trick in like January or something, his stuff is going to go crazy, because everyone's like, yeah, man, I'm going to be a soccer guy now. I'm going to be good at this soccer thing. So like
the US
that's
friendly
actually,
camp opens in January, late January. So I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll get some crazy thing that comes out of that.
for sure. So like that's something I think that probably will happen as well. Like, that's something to be optimistic about. Yeah, obviously I'm optimistic. I'm just kind of like doing what I always do. Just saying stuff. I mean,
Brian, but
I don't know. Who knows?
That's
I will
fine.
say
But
I was. Yeah.
No,
What
go
was
on,
your
go on.
question? Let me properly answer your question.
no, basically you end up asking where the market goes, that you are not sure. So
Yeah.
I think it's also important to see the positive side, because look, I sold cards 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and I did not get what I was expecting. I think all of us face the same problem. But in the other end, it's also important to look at the positive side, honestly, because yeah, maybe there is a shock of supply right now in the market. Maybe macroeconomics are not helping, because again, if I pay more for my mortgage, I would not pay. It's just obvious stuff. But the thing I'm also quite curious about this is, but this is more for Brian. So you said that you have a lot of demand for breaks, but is from US or outside?
Yeah, it's both. Definitely internationally. I've had a lot of messages about how they want to get in breaks or they want to buy wax. But I do want to go back to go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do you think that the Twitch streamers that have been promoting soccer so much, like the FIFA streamers, they have impact on the sealed product,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
breaking
Yeah.
stuff, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. But I will say though, like, Alex actually had a really good point about how all the supply got hit in one shot, and we had like 30 or 40 cards on our watch list, right? I'm probably guessing a lot of those guys that dropped that supply there was only a select few that actually had all that product, all those cards. So it's basically, I feel like it's another reconsolidation where it's like it's another process of getting these cards to other people's hands and actually staying in collections. But that's just,
Yeah,
you know,
that's
an
the big
optimistic
key
point too.
for yeah, that's the big key over these next few years is how much you can cycle through to finally get to the end collector, because that's when
Yeah.
things can start rising again, is when you have things actually locked away that aren't seeing the market so much.
Actually, you end up talking about the Merlin product that was quite odd. It's quite funny because it's not the first time someone tells me that. Even on Discord, there was people there that they said they started collecting because of the Merlin set. So that said, I don't know very well, to be fair, since I don't follow that side of the market. But Merlin seems to be an amazing product.
It's an international product, right? So
It got a
it's the
big release in Europe, like retail in Europe, which is
first
like
retail
unheard
for
of.
Europe.
Yep.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
Do you guys think that Merlin now competes with Top Scrum, for example?
Probably not.
It depends. Like the thing that I love about Merlin is the fact that you have so many different players from the tops checklist, so it doesn't directly compare. But like if I was gonna get a Gavi from Chrome, Sapphire, or Merlin, Merlin's like not even in the equation. But
Yeah.
Merlin's more for the guys that don't make it into that checklist.
Okay, but for example, so 2017 Top Scrum is very expensive right now. Prism, the same thing. Do you see that, for example, Merlin 2020 can become very expensive in the future? Because if the more Merlin they make, the more special the first set becomes, no?
It's got to have somebody in it though, and the problem is the guy that's in that is also in Chrome and is in Sapphire and is in all these other stuff. But like if Matthias Tell ends up being like that guy, then I think Merlin could take off.
Gonçalo Ramos is only on 2020.
Yeah, that's the other guy as well. I completely forgot about him, but yeah, yeah.
Who? Who was
Gonçalo
the
Ramos,
other?
the Portuguese
Oh.
guy. Ramos.
Gotcha.
So yeah, guys.
Yeah, you need a guy like that to really be like a guy, and then that starts bringing a lot of attention to the set. Sort of like Vinicius Jr. with treble and all that kind of stuff that happened.
No, makes sense. So guys, any final thoughts? No.
We didn't get any U.S. men's national team takes.
Yeah, I mean, I
Oh.
don't know. Not much takes to have. I think it went good though. It could have gone horrible or decent, and it went decent. So we'll call that a win. But yeah, I mean, now it's just the road to 2026 and trying to keep level expectations now, because I think people are going to get carried away.
The game that I was really impressed with the US was the England game. I thought you guys played very, very well in that game.
Yeah, a lot of the English fans don't give us a lot of credit. They just say that, I mean, because for them, they really did need a draw in that game basically locked it up. So I could see why maybe they weren't going all out. But I did think it was good. I just, the Netherlands game, we got pretty exposed, and that tampers a lot of the expectations, which I think is good. But I mean, as far as this World Cup could have gone for us, I think, having good showings against England like that and against both Wales and Iran, I mean, those were teams that people were saying were better than us or at least equal to, and we looked really good. So, I mean, having the U.S. advance and having Messi win a World Cup, I couldn't have imagined it going any better. So, I
mean, it could have gone better if we beat Netherlands and got to play Argentina, but other than
well, that's
that,
what I did say, that Messi versus Mbappe was the best World Cup final that could have happened, and everyone corrected me and said no, it's actually U.S. versus Messi or Mbappe, and I was like, I didn't even think about it, not even in my head.
Nah, the best World Cup would be Portugal and Argentina in the final. That's just insane.
yeah, with Ronaldo on the bench, unfortunately.
Well, that's
But yeah, no, I think the US was at expectations, but like for a card market perspective, the fact that Pulisic wasn't like head and shoulders above everybody on the team and had like a decent performance with a moment, and Gio Reyna didn't do anything, and our stars were really are either backline or midfielders, really wasn't what we were looking for in terms of like card excitement.
Yeah, and only a goal from each player. That's only way in Pulisic. I mean, other than Haji, which no one cares. So, yeah, I mean, card-wise, it wasn't that exciting, but for me, that was good. I like that. So, we'll take it.
Keeps Reyna prices low.
I'll take that too.
Okay, guys. So I think is everything for today. Thank you so much, all of you guys, to accepting the invite, and we should do it next for the Euros or something. I don't know.
I was gonna say 2026. We're back.
Copa America 2024 in the United
Hey.
States.
There we
No,
go.
we do one for the national. Believe is what in June, July, right? So
Are you coming this year?
I'm not sure, but I want to go.
Oh, we got to start a Patreon donations to get Andre to the United States.
The tickets are quite expensive.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, we got to start a Patreon donation or something.
No, but is
You can make a poster and everything.
is in Chicago, right? This year.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the best location too, at least like in my opinion. But
Easily.
Guys, thank you so much, and yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.